everybody, and welcome to another episode of Healthy AF. My name is Amy Chang, and I'm a health coach here with Healthy Life, Health and Wellness Coaching. I'm glad you're here. It's January, and we are talking about connections and community, how they play into our overall sense of belonging and safety and sense of self, and how all of that really adds up into sustainable, really healthy health choices. So if you are picking up this podcast in the midst of looking for motivation for that New Year's resolution or a little bit more willpower to keep going, now we're in the third week of January. Listen in. It's going to be a little bit different than what you're maybe used to hearing. When we feel good about us, we make health decisions that reflect that. So keep in mind, it's not just to put your head down and grind. Sometimes you have to do that. It's not just to suit up and show up. Sometimes you need to do that. It's also the hey, build your life with so much love that all those healthy choices reflect that love for yourself and others. So I'm glad you're here. We are talking about connections and community this whole month of January. This is the third podcast in this segment. And we are talking about specific social connections. Now, we talked about first just acknowledging, simply the act of acknowledging other human beings and being acknowledged back. We also talked about those general commonalities, those general communities where it's like, you're in my kindergarten class, you live on my dorm hall, you go to church with me. And now we're talking about what it feels like and what the benefits are when we have more specific social connections. So not the broader you're in my school, but the more specific you're in chemistry club with me. So when we're grown up, this sort of shows as you go to the same CrossFit gym as I do. We're in the same Mahjong group. We play pickleball. We are in the same maybe Sunday school group. Smaller groups of people who share a specific interest in a specific thing. These social groups, I find, are more common as we move from the go of maybe being a parent or really high drive in that career setting up. And they come in, we've chosen these people. Let's all get together and have a monthly dinner just to reconnect. And that's a great start. Just doing something outside the things that you have to do is a great way to connect. Pretty much you kind of have to go to work and you have to go to school and you have to, maybe go to church. But this connection is a little bit different because it already gives you a little bit deeper connection because it is more specific. These connections can be very fulfilling, or they can become draining obligations, and we can outlive their usefulness. So let's talk about that a minute. When I work with people and we look at their wheel of health, which includes how's your social going? How's your sense of community? How's your sense of belonging? And they say, well, I play pickleball 3 times a week with the same 25 people. Great. That's fabulous. I'm glad you're seeing other people. Are those people the ones who are going to come move your couch? And if the answer is no, that's okay. But that's that kind of relationship. When I was thinking about this the other day, actually, when I started CrossFit, it's 2007. Okay. And yes, I did go a little fanatic, and I did love the CrossFit. I still love the CrossFit. And I went to the CrossFit gym with basically these same people. I don't know, until I left Hickory. I mean, there were a few that revolved in and out, but I knew everyone at CrossFit, and they were my people. It felt very comforting for me to drop off the children at school and then go to my CrossFit gym. I knew who was going to be there. I knew what they were going to be lifting. I knew how much they were going to be lifting. I knew if they were stronger than me or weaker than me. I knew if they were faster than me or slower than me. I knew if they had a better engine or bigger muscles. I knew if I was going to beat them constantly or lose to them constantly. And I knew like on what workout, like I knew a lot about these people. And I knew some about their life, how many kids they had, maybe about where they lived in town, where their kids went to school, what they did for a living. I knew some details about these people. Okay. And I loved them. If one had, gotten an injury and not come in the gym, we'd all be like, oh man, hope she's okay. We miss her. We might even shoot a text off like, hey, we missed you today. Hope you're feeling better. That kind of relationship. And it was a great relationship to have. I loved that community. It was a very specifically bonded community. And in 2019, which would be 12 years after I started CrossFit, my dad died. And his funeral was in Winston, which was about an hour from Hickory if you're not in North Carolina. And of the 12 years that I spent at CrossFit, and of all the love and all the bonding and all the CrossFit conversations we had, and all the talk about who could lift what and who could run fastest, one person came to Dad's funeral. And I wasn't disappointed. But that's the kind of relationship I'm talking about. It's a social connection to a group that has a specific reason for existing. Details are shared about lives or about the specific thing we are doing. Details might be shared about how that one person is changing their serve, or how the one person is like rehabilitating their shoulder, or right. It's a very specific connection, and it exists inside those boundaries. And we need those. Those feel good, right? There are hobbies, there are passions, but they may or may not come to your daddy's funeral. That is a different type of relationship. So let's talk a little bit about what we can do inside this specific community. Inside this specific community, we can have whatever conversation we want to have. Sometimes that conversation comes up naturally, and other times it doesn't. Sometimes we're inside this community with a very specific focus. And because the reason for being in that community is a very specific focus, no other conversations happen outside that. And if you notice, you'll notice patterning inside how you connect with that specific community. And this is what I mean. If you know that every Thursday when you go to play Mahjong with your group of Mahjong people, the conversation is going to be centered around who needs to lose what weight, whose husband is a complete blowhole, and all the gossip of the neighborhood, then that's what you're getting out of that connection. If the wine is flowing, that's what you're getting out of that connection. Sometimes it's a great thing to hit your Mahjong group and have a place to vent it all out. Do it. Don't confuse that with a community connection that has a high level of growth or hardcore, intimate support. It can grow into that, but that's not the same. It's good to have those relationships, but it is not the same. Here's how it can grow. I had a 7 a.m. CrossFit class that I loved. And one day, one of the younger members said, we all need to go out. We're changing the context of how we relate to each other now. We only had one context of relating, and it was in the CrossFit class. What were we doing in CrossFit? What were we doing that day? What sucked? What was really easy? What we did well? Who hurt who? Who was faster than whom? Right? And then she changed the context because she said, let's get on a group text. We need to go do something social. And we did actually end up going to do something social. And the conversations shifted. It was great. All of a sudden, I was sharing and, performing my go-to karaoke performances. They were not surprised to hear it was I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. All of a sudden, we were talking about who likes to hunt and who doesn't like to hunt or have guns around. We were having different conversations. And because those conversations shifted, we were now able to relate to each other in more intimate ways. After that evening, we decided we'd do Coffee Friday. So after every Friday 7 a.m. class, we walked across the street and had coffee together. Again, a different context, a different conversation built a different community. Now, all of a sudden, I had people in my life that I exercised with and had a very specific social connection with them. And now they're the people who are giving me hugs and checking in on me as my mom's health is changing. And I'm not going to that class anymore. So I think sometimes I don't think it's okay to poo-poo these specific social connections that really exist in an encapsulated area. They can morph and change depending on what conversations we begin having. And I'd like to throw this one last thing about this. When we do our social specific connection and interact in that specific community, sometimes that community is that activity that we're bonded over is based in value set. When we connect on a value set level, we are more likely to lean in and expand conversations. Let me bring that to a more general example. The people who are at the CrossFit are at the CrossFit because they value health. So that expands into other conversations about health, whether it's mental well-being or the healthcare system or how we feel about the healthcare system or spirituality or, it morphs into bigger because we have that value. If you are going to like an adult ed class with another person, you may value education or being a lifelong learner or cultivating brain health. And then that's a whole other conversation. You're moving that sort of specific social connectivity into a different context. So these little social connections, I think, are almost like little opportunities. They can grow and flourish. They can become more just about release, a time to vent, a time to get out of the normal schedule. They can become, oh God, I got to go to Mahjong again. That same woman's going to say that same thing. I don't want to go. I've already heard it 40 times before, and be depleting. But there's a little opportunity. And without those opportunities, we don't develop more. So I wanted to bring that distinction to all of you, because it's not been always known to me that I was in a specific social connection that actually didn't have tentacles into my value set. And then I could have been really disappointed when nobody showed up to Dad's funeral. So I'm glad I knew what those relationships look like. Get your piece of paper out and start looking at those specific commonalities that you have in those communities and connected groups. It is going to maybe be, again, Mahjong, a CrossFit class, your running group, your drinking group, your parent group, your Thursday night out to dinner once a month dinner club, your golfing buddies, any of those things. And look at where those groups lie for you. Which ones need to be let go? Which ones have served their purpose? Which ones have morphed into something else? The friend that I spoke with talking about what January's content was going to be, we were actually in a specific social group together, and we started going to breakfast. And through that opportunity, we began calling each other every day. And it's been 2 years. And our relationship has become for me one of my best examples of the next type of relationship we're going to talk about, intentional, intimate relationships. That's all for now. I hope y'all are doing just a fantastic job on writing down your little paper. It does make a difference. Get those things where you can see them. What kind of relationships do you have in your life? What kind of communities do you have in your life? And are they still serving you? I will see you next week on Healthy AF.